So tonight I'm essentially going to repeat what we did last night, and that's just removing everything here on the left hand side, so specifically the silencer, muffler, and then the brackets and the foot peg and those brackets there, those plates at the back, the Z plate, but instead of leaving the foot peg attached, I think I might remove that foot peg assembly because it's a lot heavier, and just to get it out of the way. And then I try not to let the spacers fall all over the floor tonight, so yeah, try and remember to pull those bolts out with the Z plate so that hopefully the spacers stay intact. Not that that matters so much, but and then we should be very close, I think. After that, I think what we'll be looking at are the shock absorbers. I don't think I'll remove the fender, the mudguard. I don't think so. I wouldn't mind, but there's a fair bit going on back here that I'd rather not have to deal with, so although that should stay attached, right? So anyway, I'll think about it, and so that'll be tonight's activities. Just a couple of call outs here on the left hand side. So we have the foot peg assembly that also contains the brake pedal as well. So you see the cable that worked its way through that Z plate over the top actually of the Z plate for safety. And yeah, I mentioned earlier I was going to try and get one of those safety spring clips that goes around that to stop this from happening when or if the cable ever snaps and you jackknife yourself. But another special feature here in that bottom bolt here that attaches to the assembly that fixes to the Z plate, it holds a clamp that has the cable that goes into the switch that is used to activate the rear brake light as well. So yeah, so just something to be aware of, the position of that. And it's okay. Kept the spacers on this time. Well, we're getting really close from a back end perspective. Of course, you know I'm going to have to take that primary off, and we're probably going to do that during the tech day. But it's pretty grimy in there. I'm leaning towards taking this rear mudguard off as well, and just had a little discovery earlier as well. You know, I feel like David Attenborough because behind there we have the elusive Norton Horn. You know, it's one of those things that no one knows where the horn is, but it's tucked away back there, and it's also covered in oil. So I think what I'll do is take the fender off and then see what's going on. Where is that oil all coming from? That's what I'd like to figure out as a byproduct of this project. Okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to remove the rear fender. I don't really need to, I don't think, for this particular job, but with there being so much oil back there, which I've seen even more of, I'm going to remove it. And there are 7 bolts to undo, and some stuff that I need to do with the wiring back here as well, so might be able to keep it with that taillight section on the rear loop, but so that I can just remove the fender itself and leave everything intact. But we'll see how we get on. I don't know if you noticed that, but I left that last bolt on the bottom bracket that fixes to the license plate, just so it would hold the rear fender up as I remove these screws from the plastic housing. Just don't want any accidents. You know, I really do not want to have to unplug all these cables, these wires. It's not a huge job, but I'd rather just avoid having to do that. So what I'm going to do is just disconnect this tail section from the clamp here that goes around, that clamps around this rear loop, and then by removing the bracket here, there's a nut and bolt here, a nut and bolt here. It will free the fender up. The rear loop will stay here, and then the wires for this tail section are clipped periodically along this rear loop. I'm just going to lift this whole thing and move it back, maybe sit it on top of the bike in a blanket or something like that, so it doesn't scratch anything, just out of the way, and then it can all just go back intact when I come to reassemble the bike. Here I'm just clipping all the cable ties, and then just going to remove the bracket, and then the fender should come apart next. Nearly there. So this last nut should remove both the fender and the rear tail light assembly. Okay, I said I wouldn't do it, but I give in. I was going to tie the tail light assembly back over there, but you know, the more I rested it on here, the more I thought about bangs and scrapes and it falling off and doing some damage. So there's 5 wires. I've labelled them all. I'm going to take those bullet connectors apart, and then I can remove the tail light assembly and put it off to one side, and then it's just the cable that needs to be tucked away. Goodness, that was a lot of fuss over nothing. Took 30 seconds. I don't know why I stressed over that. I guess I've had some bad experience with pulling those connectors apart and leaving the bullet inside, and then I've got another soldering job on my hands. So we are nearly there. Yeah, so I'm so glad I did that. It's filthy back there. So I think the last job remaining is just to remove the shock absorbers tonight. And then I'm going to leave the primary case assembly until the tech session. I might possibly take the casing off, but I think some of the guys may actually be interested in seeing what it looks like to remove the clutch and the stator, rotor, etc. The primary chain, the inner casing, to get to the other side of that spindle for the swing arm. And just to explain what I mean by that, here on the right hand side of the bike, you can see the swing arms almost completely exposed now, and once we get those Welch caps out of there, you will be able to see the spindle. But on the other side, it's a different story. Here on the other side, just behind the chain, I don't know if you can make it out, but you can't see the other side of the swing arm and that cap because the primary case is in the way. So that's going to have to come out, off I should say. Jimmy, thanks for your help, you and Scotty, I appreciate your advice with this. So yep, that's coming off, probably along with a few other things as well. Look at the state of that horn, etc. So I suspect it's oil, all these oil feeds here. Gosh, it looks like a plumber's nightmare. So yeah, I'm gonna have to clean that up first of all and see if I can figure out where all that oil's coming from. Although this has probably been years of debris and grime from the road. Okay, so I'm going to be really careful when I start disassembling these shock absorbers. In fact, I may leave one on. The last thing I want is this swing arm section here to drop down and damage my oil filter there. So that's another job. I don't think I'll be changing the oil today or the oil filter. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe when we get this swing arm back, I might just change the oil filter. Especially now that I'm under there. But for now, I'm just going to kind of loosen these off. What I'd like to do, you see, what I'm trying to get to is I want to see how much lateral movement there is with the swing arm without the shock absorbers, just to see how truly bad it might be. So I'm just going to remove that bottom bolt and nut from the bottom of the shock absorber, and then essentially that leaves the swing arm free. But I'll hold on to it. I'll just move the shock absorber out the way. I won't remove it from the top so that it pivots on the top nut and bolt. And then I'm going to see if that swing arm's going to drop and interfere with that oil filter. If it is, I'll reconnect it. But what I might do is do a quick test to see how much it moves from side to side. Yeah. It hits it. I'm sure it does. Oh, maybe. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's hitting it. Anyway, let's do. I mean, it'll rest on it. It's not like it weighs a ton, but oh, there's tons of movement. You see that? Yeah. Okay, glad we did it. Let's just secure that back there for now like this. That was supposed to go the other way, but that's good. Okay. I think we are ready for our tech day. That's it. Back end disassembled, ready for Saturday. I've just left that one shock absorber on there for now. What I'll probably do between now and then is give this a good clean up inside this cavity. But that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this dismantling process as much as I have. And the fun now begins. That's just getting started. But Saturday's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see if we can get that spindle out. Possibly, possibly not. If not, there's a little bit of work to be done. And then the fun begins, getting it all back together again. Alright, see you guys.